Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Megan Shaw and here are your top stories on Tuesday the 23rd of December. Council Christmas, as local authorities across Kent receive multi-million pound funding settlements.
While we may not have been punished like other councils have by the government financially, we certainly have not been rewarded either.
Ramping up. Teenage skateboarder raises money to build specialist training ramp to help Olympic dreams.
I've currently bought a vert ramp, but I need to fund the money to get new surface for it so that it's long lasting, not just for me, for the whole community.
And Santa and spare change. Rotary Club closes the festive season with final few sleigh trips around Medway.
It was really cool. I like his sleigh.
But first, our top story this evening. A late Christmas present for our local authorities, as Kent County Council will see a £50 million funding boost under government plans. It follows a review into how money is given to councils based on need and deprivation. But council leaders warn it still won't go far enough. Local democracy reporter Ollie Leader has been finding out if Kent's councils are on the government's naughty or nice list.
Financial stability is a Christmas present that councils across Kent have been waiting on for months. Following a government review into how money is allocated to our local authorities in hopes of addressing need and deprivation, with Kent County Council set to receive an increase of more than £50 million in funding over the next year.
It's roughly what we were expecting. However, while we may not have been punished like other councils have by the government financially, we certainly have not been rewarded either. Delivering our services here in Kent is costing more and more every year. However, the government's funding is in no way keeping up with that.
At the moment, councils are given funding on a year-by-year basis. This new financial settlement changes that by giving councils an insight into what they can expect over the next 3 years. Some district and borough councils like Ashford and Maidstone will see the money they're being given go down. And if we look at our largest authorities, both Kent County Council and Medway Council will see their core spending power to deliver local services increase by more than 30% by 2029.
As we are moving away from the austerity years where in Medway we had a 91% cut in our revenue support grant between 2010 and 2024. Those days are gone, but that's not to say that in one settlement, even a multi-year settlement, that will be enough by itself to bring us back to that position where we have financial sustainability.
Councils will have to crunch the numbers to see if this will help fill in the gaps in their budgets as they prepare to outline their finalised financial plans in the new year. Ollie Leader in Kent.
And Ollie Leader joins me in the studio now. So Ollie, what does this mean for some of Kent's other authorities?
So, we're three kinds of authority in Kent. We have our upper tier, which is Kent County Council, which they do your kind of your bigger things, adult social care, SE&D transport, highways. You have your boroughs and districts. They do your kind of more localised services, bin collections, planning. And then you also have Medway Council, which does everything. And it's really those upper tier authorities that seem to be benefiting from this. Obviously, Medway and KCC are seeing an increase in their core spending. That is not universal across all the councils here in Kent. The Fair Funding Review will see some councils losing a bit of that core spending power, a few million being shaved off here and there. There will be some that will gain a small boost. This is because the way the formula for this money is being determined has changed. It's taking into account things like deprivation, and we do have quite a few wealthy areas with pockets of deprivation scattered throughout, as opposed to somewhere like Medway, we do have a bit more of a pronounced or concentrated amount of deprived areas. Obviously, that's not the only factor. Issues such as housing play a role, as well as council need, especially when you have big services eating into your budgets.
I see. And Ollie, tell us, why are there such large financial challenges for councils in Kent?
I alluded to it a bit there. Some councils, upper tiers in particular, have a lot of statutory services they have to deliver that are expensive. I'm talking about SE&D transport or adult social care, for example, as well as things like care homes. There's a lot of things that can put a strain on upper tier authority. I actually spoke to the Deputy Leader of KCC, Brian Collins. He's kind of the financial brains almost of the operation from the Reform UK side, and he says that this money will only go so far to address those problems.
In the short term, it may help. But as I've said many times recently, adult social care is a national problem. It's a problem for every country, every county around the country, and government needs to take a bit more responsibility for it. Demand is increasing by, on an average of about 10% a year.
So as we heard there, adult social care is one of the big issues facing authorities, and now we will have to wait till the new year to find out about Reform's budget. They will have to set that. It's statutory. They have to tell us how they're going to spend their money. And they have said the wait has delayed them in this, but we should be finding that out sooner rather than later. As well as the big question, is your council tax going to go up?
Thank you very much, Ollie. Now, a weekend of action by Kent Police in Citybourne has seen drug seizures and arrests as part of the crackdown. Police took to the high street and retail areas in the busy weekend leading up to Christmas to tackle concerns about antisocial behaviour, with a dispersal order also in place. Police efforts at the railway station saw 15 stop and searches as well as 2 arrests, with anti-spiking kits also being distributed to women arriving for a night out in the town. And a car ploughed through 2 sets of pedestrian guard railings after crashing at a busy roundabout. The incident occurred near the Luton Archers in Chatham and involved a single vehicle yesterday evening. Pictures here show a silver Ford Fiesta, which had destroyed 2 separate safety barriers. Officers closed the road at 6 p.m. to allow recovery teams to retrieve the vehicle, with the route opening 10 minutes later. A police spokesperson said Kent Police was called to reports of a single vehicle collision on New Road, Chatham. Officers attended the scene where no injuries were reported. Now, a burglary has taken place at a long-standing cafe in Ramsgate just 2 days before Christmas. Alison's Seaview Cafe in King George, the 6th Memorial Park, was broken into last night, damaging the locked door and, although no cash was stolen, racked up £1,000 worth of damage. Alison told Kent Online that it's very heartbreaking because we put our all into this place, and described the break-in, as having appalling timing. Now, one teenage skating sensation from Broadstairs has his sights set on the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, but he's hit a wall. He needs a new ramp to be able to train like the best. 16-year-old Tay Cunningham, along with his dad Ted, are fundraising for a new vert ramp to be installed at Lymington Park in Westgate so that Tay can train specific jumps, tricks and skills. And Finn McDermott went down to Revolution Skate Park in Broadstairs to find out more.
In most sports, they say the sky is the limit, but for 16-year-old skateboarding sensation Tay Cunningham, it's actually the ceiling. He's training with one goal in mind, the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. He's gotten to the stage of his training where he says he needs a vertical ramp to drop in from in order to fight on the international stage, but his local venue doesn't have the space. So he's decided to make his own.
The money for the GoFundMe currently is going towards the LA 2028 Games for me to try and make it to there and just qualify and get better and travel to see all these people that are better than me to inspire me so I can get better at skateboarding and improve. And then also for the vert ramp in my local community. I've currently bought a vert ramp, but I need to fund the money to get new surface for it so that it's long lasting, not just for me, for the whole community, because our current closest vert ramp is in Surrey, and I would love to have one in Kent, not just for me, for the whole community, so everyone can get better and to inspire little kids.
Since he got permission from the town council, the ramp will be installed at Lymington Park in Westgate, but for Tay's dad, it's just another step in a long road for the young athlete.
So Tay, it became really obvious Tay was really good. I mean, he entered a few comps, won them all, and then he went to a nationals comp, And he didn't do that well on the first one, but while everybody else was skating the final, Tay was learning 540s, and he got in the car and said to me, basically, I can do everything they can do. I can honestly say within about 3 months, I could not believe how far along he'd come.
Ted is currently fundraising online and is also looking to run 50 kilometres to raise the $7,000 needed for the ramp, with any additional funds going towards travel, coaching and competitions. Watching Tay, I thought I'd demonstrate how high level he is by having a go myself.
Now it's my turn. Now Tay here has been skateboarding for about 12 years. I have very little experience in skateboarding. I can just about cruise around. I can't even do an ollie. So Tay is going to be taking me to the beginner area to see if I can go down a ramp. Now, how easy is that to do for quite a beginner?
Here at Rev in the beginner room, it's perfect because every ramp's really small, so you should be just fine.
All right, brilliant. Well, fingers crossed.
I think now's a good time to hang up my board and leave it to Tay and the next generation. If Tay wants to make it to the very top of skateboarding, he knows he doesn't just need to ramp up his training, but ramp up his equipment as well. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Broadstairs.
Now it's time for a quick break, but coming up we're going to be joined by a former teacher who left the classroom to run his local pub and see it return to his former glory, alongside the sports news from across the county. Don't go anywhere. See you later. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. A teacher who quit his job to run his local pub says he feels proud to see it return to its former glory. Gary Carter from Ashford has enjoyed a varied career over the years, but has now settled into his role as landlord of the Rose in Kennington. And he joined us earlier to tell us more. OK, so first of all, Gary, you've had a varied career. Can you please take us through your story and explain how you've ended up at the Rose Inn?
Yeah, certainly. So, Brunel University, in the days when you decided that's what you was going to do, an engineer, I was most probably the worst engineer in the world. From that, I went into manufacturing and ended up running a few businesses. And for Delarue, they're the people that used to print all the money and all the passports. So I run many of their factories around the world. Then I've had a couple of businesses of my own, based in London, facilities management. And then I met my second wife, who was Zimbabwean, and we decided to have an adventure in Zimbabwe. So not many factories to run in Zimbabwe, so I went and decided I was going to become a teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher, but to be perfectly frank, could never afford to be one. So done my PGCE in physics, and then we moved to Harare. And I taught out there in a private and a state school for 5 or 6 years. And I left there to end up running the horse racing industry in Mashonaland in Harare. Then COVID struck, come back. This was my local. And then the previous landlord decided to leave. And I thought, well, why not? So I went for it, and here I am. So having never done it before, I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Wow, you've lived many lives there, Gary. So what was it that led you to leave that teaching job, and there was a job in between, and then take on the role of a new challenge?
Yeah, so sorry, I forgot. So I went to teach at Norton Natural, teaching physics and also junior science for 2.5 years. And I think by that time, I think I'd had, I suppose, enough of the teaching at my time of life. It was quite different from teaching when I was doing my PGCE. The level of low-level disruption, etc. I found it difficult to actually teach, so I decided to leave the teaching profession. Although I still do go back and do some cover, because I maintain that when you teach a great lesson, it's like playing a fantastic round of golf. The feedback is fantastic, and you know from a kid's eyes that you've got through to them. It's the best feeling on earth.
When you first stepped inside the Rose Inn, maybe for your first day there, what was it like? What was the conditioning? Did you feel like there was a lot of work to be done, maybe? Or did you ever imagine one day you'd be running
it? Yes, we moved. We only live about 500 metres away, and from when I first started drinking here, I came for the people as opposed to the pub. The pub was quite run down and needed quite a lot of TLC, both in terms of the premises and also, to be fair, the management. So, yeah, it was definitely going to be a challenge, but the support of the locals in here, they were the ones that suggested I should perhaps try and get the pub. So with that support of the locals, I went for it, and it's been exciting. Never a dull moment. Our very own soap opera.
And since you took over that, have you made any major changes to the pub? Have you given it your own flair, maybe?
Yes, I think so. Shepherd and Neame, they decorated the outside pub in my first 6 months, which was it needed to be doing. Then we did the toilets, redid the toilets they needed, we redid the kitchen, we've now redecorated the inside, refurnished all the chairs, all the soft furnishings and be replaced. But that's just the fabric of the building. I think the main difference is that the staff that we have now, if there was one big difference, I think it's the staff. And when you come into the pub, you're greeted with a smile, and if I'm there, you're greeted with a handshake normally. So I think it's my staff. Fantastic staff we've got.
And now for all your sports headlines with Finn McDermott.
Hello and welcome to your sports headlines. First of all, it could be an early Christmas for Gillingham fans as Gareth Ainsworth hopes to have multiple players back from the injury list. Currently, Connor Masterson, Josh Andrews, Sam Vokes and Marcus Wiley could make a return to the starting lineup for the side's festive fixtures. Ainsworth may be looking forward to having a big striker up front in Josh Andrews and Sam Vokes after commenting the team weren't ruthless enough up front in their recent loss away at Fleetwood. Let's hear what else the manager said the side needed after their clash at the weekend.
There's a couple of players who are on the sidelines today who probably will need to get games, and we want to get back to something like we were at the start of the season, where we looked formidable, But again, we've got quite a few injuries, and hopefully no one was picked up today. I'm only let us play through, almost, the illness, he was ill in the week and a couple of them had time off, and it's just one of those weeks, but unlucky today, and all I can say is thanks to the Gills fans for coming up. Your journey will be as bad as ours on the way home, but I'm sure we'll get over it with a win on Boxing Day.
Next, we're heading to the rugby pitch where Gravesend put up 55 against the Canterbury Seconds. They started out strong, scoring twice in the opening 10 minutes thanks to Samraj Chahal and Chris Shorter. Then forward, Lewis White and George Bruce took on an overthrown line-out to build up a 36-0 lead. The second half was a bit slower before Josh Harris got his first senior try. Les Falafatu claimed himself a brace near the end, with Canterbury adding a consolation to their tally as well. Now to golf, where Canterbury's Simon Legat earned his first hole-in-one in their December Stableford competition. He scored his first on the course's tough par 3 17th hole, but still only managed a second-place finish behind Alan Holcroft with 34 points. Legat said he was over the moon about it and he's been inches away before and never thought he'd get one. The competition was played before the juniors' end-of-season prize giving that saw the younger members of the club earn some recognition for their efforts. And lastly, to Chatham, where the doors of the Beauville Stadium will be thrown open to fans for free to watch the quarter-final of the Kent Senior Cup against Bromley 11. With the match being played a couple days before Christmas, chairman and manager Kevin Hake is encouraging fans to make a donation to Wisdom Hospice in Rochester. He added it was a great decision made jointly by themselves, Bromley and the Kent FA. But it's not just happening in Chatham. Dover offered free entry to their National League South game against Eastbourne Borough that did end, unfortunately, 5-2 for the visitors, and Faversham will be doing the same in the new year. Well, that's all for your sports headlines. See you very soon.
Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all the latest stories from all over Kent at kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find reports like this one, which takes a look at a Canterbury charity in a race against time to save a historic building from collapsing into the River Stour.
If we don't do something now, then it's going to be so much greater of a problem later. And as I say, it would be an enormous loss to the history of Canterbury and of Kent.
Nestled in the heart of Canterbury High Street sits a building with hundreds of years of history. Through this low Gothic door lies former accommodation for poor pilgrims desperate to visit the shrine of Archbishop St Thomas Becket, who was murdered in the cathedral in 1170. But now these ancient sleeping quarters have had to close for visitors. I received access to the oldest part of the hospital, the former dormitory, to talk about why.
The building is rotating into the river, not to put it too finely. The reality is that this building has always been falling in the river, and it's just a question of whether that fall is accelerating or not. We are working with Canterbury Archaeological Trust and with structural engineers to try and make sure that this is a building that will be here for future generations and not, sadly, something that falls into the river.
I'm stood just outside the Eastbridge Hospital alongside the River Stour. You can see just behind me there, if you look towards the bay window and down, you can see that brickwork that's experiencing damage over the 800 years this place has been open.
The charity says that renovations to make the building safe for visitors again could cost up to £250,000.
We used to get probably, in a season in this building, we used to get just over 10,000 people. which obviously now we've been closed for over a year. So it's had a massive impact on the finances of the charity, which is why we're now finding we can't afford to pay for the renovations and all the work that needs doing down here in the Undercroft. We're that unknown little gem in the high street that people have heard of but maybe not been to for a long time. But I think historically there is so much here that it would be heartbreaking if this building were to close permanently and the charity finished. It just wouldn't be, it's not conceivable.
Historic England has agreed to place the charity on their at-risk register, helping it towards securing grant funding for the future. But yet still, the charity say they need public support to help prevent the history here being washed away. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Canterbury.
And now the weather. This evening will be cloudy, temperatures reaching 6 degrees in Maidstone and Dover, dipping to lows of 5. Tomorrow morning, Christmas Eve, temperatures falling slightly, lows of 3 degrees in Ashford. Into the afternoon, temperatures will remain about the same, highs of around 5 degrees in Dartford and lows of 3. Winds continuing around 6 miles per hour, and your outlook 4 degrees on Thursday, cloud, giving way to sun on Friday and Saturday, 8 degrees. Now it's time for a quick break, but coming up, we take a look at our top story where we see the reaction of councillors to fair funding, and we'll be joined with Tudor Price to talk all about Christmas things ahead of Boxing Day sales. See you then. Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Megan Shaw and here are your top stories on Tuesday the 23rd of December. Council Christmas, as local authorities across Kent receive multi-million pound funding settlements.
While we may not have been punished like other councils have by the government financially, we certainly have not been rewarded either.
Ramping up. Teenage skateboarder raises money to build specialist training ramp to help Olympic dreams.
I've currently bought a vert ramp, but I need to fund the money to get new surface for it so that it's long lasting, not just for me, for the whole community.
And Santa and spare change. Rotary Club closes the festive season with final few sleigh trips around Medway.
It was really cool. I like his sleigh.
A look back at our top story this evening. A late Christmas present for our local authorities as Kent County Council will see a £50 million funding boost under government plans. It follows a review into how money is given to councils based on need and deprivation. But council leaders warn it still won't go far enough. And local democracy reporter Ollie Leader has been finding out if Kent councils are on the government's naughty or nice list.
Financial stability is a Christmas present that councils across Kent have been waiting on for months. Following a government review into how money is allocated to our local authorities in hopes of addressing need and deprivation, with Kent County Council set to receive an increase of more than £50 million in funding over the next year.
It's roughly what we were expecting. However, while we may not have been punished like other councils have by the government financially, we certainly have not been rewarded either. Delivering our services here in Kent is costing more and more every year. However, the government's funding is in no way keeping up with that.
At the moment, councils are given funding on a year-by-year basis. This new financial settlement changes that by giving councils an insight into what they can expect over the next 3 years. Some district and borough councils like Ashford and Maidstone will see the money they're being given go down. And if we look at our largest authorities, both Kent County Council and Medway Council will see their core spending power to deliver local services increase by more than 30% by 2029.
As we are moving away from the austerity years where in Medway we had a 91% cut in our revenue support grant between 2010 and 2024. Those days are gone, but that's not to say that in one settlement, even a multi-year settlement, that will be enough by itself to bring us back to that position where we have financial sustainability.
Councils will have to crunch the numbers to see if this will help fill in the gaps in their budgets as they prepare to outline their finalised financial plans in the new year. Ollie Leader in Kent.
Say they feel that they're living in hell after their block of flats became overrun with flies. Those living in the affected building in Maidstone have been dealing with the infestation, which has taken over the communal areas and their homes since mid-November. And Maisie Walker joins me now to tell us more. So Maisie, tell us, what do we know so far?
So tenants say that they've been dealing with this fly infestation since mid-November. This has spread through communal areas and into their homes, which they describe as crawling with bugs. And despite efforts to get rid of them, they still remain. And the properties are owned by MHS Homes, which have since apologised to customers experiencing problems with the flies. The Housing Association has also confirmed that pest contractors are investigating the issue.
And you touched on that a little bit, but what are some of the tenants' concerns?
Well, as you can see probably on the screen now, you can see some of the flies. So tenant Amy Rogers believes that not enough is being done to support the residents. She claims the infestation is the result of the poor condition of the building and that the problem has been ongoing for months. And Amy has described the flies crawling up the walls, as you can see here, getting into fridges and food, and said that they are growing at a wildfire rate. She's previously previously stayed in a hotel with her son to escape these flies.
And what flies are there?
Well, these insects are called phorid flies, and they're slightly different from fruit flies because they're smaller and they breed in mostly moist areas and decaying organic matter. They're often seen scurrying across surfaces rather than flying, and they're more common in warmer months but can also be found during the winter.
And has anyone been contacted for support?
So residents have contacted their MP, Helen Grant, and their ward councillor, Rachel Rodwell. Both escalated the complaints after claims that MHS homes were not responding to them.
I see. And has MHS responded at all?
So Gemma Hancock, who is the Executive Director of Assets and Development there, says that the issue is being taken seriously. They've apologised to customers experiencing problems with flies. The first issue was reported on November the 12th by one resident. And then following that, a pest contractor did come to inspect the flats and the communal areas. But a low number of flies were found and were thought not to be linked to damp or mould. Further visits were arranged, and on November the 24th, damp and mould were reported, with mould found around the bedroom window. But further investigations are on place.
Thank you very much, Maisie. We'll follow this story as it continues. Now, Christmas for many is the most expensive time of the year, but will you be budgeting for a hefty spree at Boxing Day or the January sales following the big day? The 26th in particular has been synonymous with getting up early to hit the shops or perusing online to find the best deals. And early today, I spoke to Tudor Price, the CEO of the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce, to find out more. So, Tudor, thank you for joining us this evening. First of all, let's just speak about Christmas shopping. I know I'm quite relieved to have all of mine out the way with a couple of days to spare. In general, have we seen any trends this year in what people are buying for their friends and family?
We have indeed, yes. So I think it's been helpful that the Christmas sort of falls on the Thursday, so that's given everyone a bit of time to rush. You haven't got so many men panicking, running around at the last minute. But just the sort of early some indications are that we'll probably see a little bit more of an increase in overall spend this year. Whether that's down to raising prices, not entirely sure yet, but certainly there seems to be more spend on last year. A big increase as ever on online shopping. You know, we may even top the 30% of retail sales this year. So again, that trend continues, and again, retailers need to be sort of adapting to that approach. And interestingly, we've seen fewer physical gifts and more experience gifts going through the markets this time round. So clearly people are sort of looking to sort of buy that memory rather than perhaps giving over something tangible. So all in all, I think it's been reasonably good, but of course we'll have to wait to do the full analysis until after Christmas.
Of course, and December is a month that we would do, I'd imagine, spend more than average, not just on Christmas, but the kind of other events we see. So Boxing Day for one. I mean, I suppose nowadays it's kind of unanimous with spending and the Boxing Day sales, but do you know why it's called Boxing Day? Is it anything to do with, I suppose, the boxes that presents come in?
Not too far off, yeah. So actually this is a sort of a historical reference going back to when the wealthy landowners would give gifts to their staff and servants, and traditionally would be in a box. And so obviously Boxing Day was sort of the name that was stuck. That's certainly the story I was told, so I'm going to stick with that one. But we've seen probably more spread spending this time. So from Black Friday, you know, they were now referring to as the Golden Quarter, where you see consumers spreading their spend across several weeks now and in several months. And in particular, of course, we're now seeing into Boxing Day, and there'll be a number of offers as well as retailers try to sort of clear out old stock ready for the new Year's products.
Would you say that Boxing Day is, I suppose, just as important for small businesses as Christmas was? Another chance, perhaps, to, I suppose, make some good sales?
I think it's probably less as impactful as it used to be. And I certainly know of many retailers now, certainly the smaller ones, that actually are quite rightly taking a bit of a break. So taking the Christmas Day and the Boxing Day before they reopen. Large retailers, of course, will always be keen to sort of capture any exchanges or Christmas vouchers that are waiting to be spent. So it still does play an important part in the sort of the income generation over the Christmas period. But it's not as impactful now because we tend to sort of spread our spending over sort of 2 or 3 weeks now.
Of course, and I suppose looking ahead again into January, a time where, I mean, I can certainly say I have a lot less money perhaps than I might have done at the beginning of December after the festive period. So would you say businesses feel that? Do they feel a significant decrease in consumer spending?
Yeah, certainly. I think, there are traditional things, aren't they? Gym membership goes through the roof all of a sudden. Hospitality suddenly starts to see a drop as people try and eat less and exercise more. Retail, there would always be good bargains to be had at the beginning of the year because retailers want to try and sort of restock with new product lines and new seasonal trends and things. So there would always be good bargains. But I think most people are being quite canny. There'll be people who are sort of waiting for those opportunities to get those bargains because they've perhaps got slightly less money in their pocket nowadays. But so it's still a significant time of the year. But again, it's been spread, so not as important as it used to be back in the day.
Do they have any advice, perhaps, for small businesses? Like you mentioned, hospitality in particular sees kind of drop off to perhaps stay afloat when a lot of people aren't out spending their money.
So from a hospitality perspective, vouchers are certainly the best way to go. If they haven't already got an online presence, they need to make sure they have one and the ability to be able to buy vouchers. As I said, we're seeing a bit of an increase in the trend around buying experiences. And gift vouchers are really good from a retailer's point of view, from a hospitality point of view, because only a percentage of them are actually ever redeemed. So that, to some extent, is money in the bank without actually having to incur the cost. So vouchers are a very good idea for both hospitality and retail.
Now it's time for a break, but coming up we're going to be joined by reporter Chloe Brewster, who'll be providing us an update on Operation Brock, as well as seeing Rotary Club's Santa sleigh spread Christmas joy throughout Gillingham. All that and more after the break. Welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. And relief for some farmers in Kent today, as the government have announced a climb down of inheritance tax thresholds. Farmers across the county took to the streets last year to protest the controversial plans, which saw farms valued over £1 million losing a significant tax relief when being passed down. That threshold has now been increased to £2.5 million, which means farmers with land valued below that being able to pass £5 million in assets tax-free, with the government saying they're backing British farmers. And part of a long-abandoned former Mecca bingo building could be turned into a community and cultural space under new plans. Ashford Borough Council says it's in the early stages of fresh proposals to redevelop the 1936-built structure in the Lower High Street, which was previously the town's Odeon Cinema. The authority has asked architects to look at the feasibility of refurbishing the front section of the building, which houses a former ballroom and cafe area. It's not yet known when that will happen, with the main auditorium building at the rear of the site, which sits next to the Vicarage Lane car park. And Operation Brock has been causing drivers headaches on the M20. But after a week of speed limits and narrow lanes, the loathed control system has now been removed. We have our reporter Chloe Brewster with us now to talk about it. So for our viewers who had never heard of Operation Brock, Chloe, what actually is it?
So Operation Brock was reintroduced last Monday, and it meant drivers on the M20 faced a 50-mile-per-hour limit and much narrower lanes to what they're used to, and that was between Junction 8 for Leeds Castle and Junction 9 for Ashford. Now, Operation Brock is often deployed by the government in anticipation of high passenger numbers heading through Kent to Europe, but it is not the most popular with drivers. We spoke to Helen Waitley last week while the operation was still going ahead to see what she said.
But for my constituents in Kent and the businesses in the area, it really affects them. It causes lots of trouble, lots of delays, lots of disruption, lots of lorries going down lanes that they shouldn't be going on, and reduces the resilience of the motorway network if something goes wrong, as we saw yesterday with huge queues on the and delays around the M20. So to me, Operation Brock shouldn't be the long-term solution to having a way of queuing lorries if there are delays or risk of delays at the port. We need something different.
And Chloe, do we have a latest update on this?
Well, while the contraflow system was in place, it did cause quite a lot of disruption. There was actually 3 incidents occurring within 24 hours last week. So, yeah, a little bit of driver chaos. But now, after all of that, they announced yesterday, from National Highways announced that the 13-mile stretch of road was to reopen today. So drivers are back to normal now. This is because bosses expect port-bound traffic to ease ahead of Christmas. So both carriageways will reopen with 3 lanes and the national speed limit in place, so you can get driving home for Christmas with ease and in plenty of time.
Brilliant. Just in time for Christmas, as you said, so I'm sure that's a relief to residents across the county. Thank you very much, Chloe. Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all the latest stories from all over Kent by checking our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find reports like this one, which takes a look at a Medway man who fought back against a fine he blames on Medway Council's inadequate signage, with the tribunal ruling in his favour.
You might have seen one of these signs if you've been driving around Medway, warning you away from driving near certain schools at peak times when the roads there become pedestrianised. That is, if you can spot them. For Chris Lee, a lack of signs along Saunders Street meant he was hit with a fine, which he says was not his fault.
If you're not aware of something being there and there's no road signage on the road that you're travelling down before you get to a place where you can pick up a penalty notice, then yeah, it's a bit of a shock, but you then think to yourself, well, did I make a mistake? I need to check this out because I don't think that there's something right here.
Well, I got behind the wheel myself to take the same route as Chris and see what warnings there were for the school street.
So, just on the right here, is Saunders Street. This is the road Chris drove down and said there wasn't adequate signage warning him there's going to be a school street right at the end. As you can see,
Lots of cars, lots of vehicles, not a lot of signage for the school street. In fact, I can't see any warnings at all as we drive down here. We're coming up to the stop line now. You should be able to get a better look at the sign. As we come up here, if you're just about coming to view, that right there is the only warning for coming from this direction that there is a school street along here.
Well, a reasonable person is not going to be looking at lampposts for every single sign. If it's over wordy, by the time you've even got halfway down it, you've gone past it.
It took Chris 2 months since getting the fine for him to receive this letter from the Traffic Penalty Tribunal, notifying him that his penalty notice had been overturned. And the adjudicator here doesn't mince any words. It says that sign right behind me, that is complicated and did not adequately convey that Richmond Road would become a school street.
Yeah, so look, I'm getting lots of feedback that some of the signage is opaque at best. It's not entirely clear when you're entering a school street scheme. This scheme is all about raising money. It's not about improving the lives of residents.
Medway Council say they have successfully defended a number of appeals at this location. And this is the first in which an adjudicator has found against them on signage grounds. They say that while they will review the adjudicator's decision, they remain satisfied that the signage at this site is adequate and compliant with the relevant legal standards, and will continue to review feedback to ensure the scheme operates effectively. But none of that will be a sign that gives people like Chris confidence their concerns are being heard. Ollie Leader in Medway.
Ollie Leader there, and now we know it won't be a white Christmas the latter half of this week, but will it affect those of you driving home for the big day? Well, it's time for a quick look at the weather. This evening will be cloudy, temperatures reaching 6 degrees in Maidstone and Dover, dipping to lows of 5. Tomorrow morning, Christmas Eve, temperatures falling slightly, lows of 3 degrees in Ashford. Into the afternoon, temperatures remaining about the same, highs of 5 degrees in Dartford and lows of 3. Winds continuing around 26 miles per hour. And your outlook, 4 degrees tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, 6 and 8, temperatures riding, hopefully sunny, which would be nice on Christmas. And sleigh bells will still be ringing in Gillingham tomorrow as the local Rotary Club begins their final Santa route. The sleigh has been taking trips around Medway for 40 years, and it's a tradition the club hopes to continue, as not only does it bring joy to families, it also raises thousands for local charities each year. Reporter Chloe Brewster got involved in the festivities yesterday evening.
Ho, ho, ho.
Despite a very busy schedule at this time of year, Santa's been paying a visit to children in Medway just ahead of the big day, but he can't do it without a little bit of help.
Gillingham Rotary Club helps Santa make the trip round Gillingham and Rainham every single year.
Gillingham Rotary has existed almost 100 years. In a few years' time we'll be 100 years old. And collecting-wise, we've been doing the collection with the float for probably about 40 years now. On most occasions, we collect between 10 and 20,000 each Christmas period. This year, there's the Wisbon Hospice, Kent Association of the Blind, and a few other local charities. As well as just the obviously the collecting, it's good PR. We get a huge amount of parents and children coming out, walking around with the sleigh, shouting of Father Christmas. It's nice to get into the Christmas spirit prior to Christmas, and especially on our last day, always, is on Christmas Eve, and we collect the most money on Christmas Eve, and that really is very festive. You know, it's very sluggish too. People are offering you glasses of sherry, of mince pies, and so on and so forth. You know, so it's yeah, it's a nice thing to do, as well as a very valuable thing to do, to collect 10,000 odd pounds for charity.
It was really cool. I like his sleigh.
The club will embark on 7 routes around the area over the festive period, visiting thousands of families. But what does Santa think of it all?
So I did it the other day as well, and it makes it to see everyone's faces when they see Santa is the best. It's the best feeling in the world. Just seeing them light up. That's what Christmas is about, isn't it? About the kids and enjoying yourselves, and yeah, it's fantastic. Just watching kids light up and yeah, Christmas spirit.
What's been the top present kids have been asking for this year?
Oh, top present, scooters. Scooters. Yeah, scooters. The kids love a scooter at the moment. Yeah.
They say kids don't want to go out anymore.
No, they're loving a scooter. Yeah, every time I ask, scooters and cuddly toys. Always cuddly toy.
After a quick chat, Santa had to get back to his duties, setting off at speed down Eastcourt Lane in Gillingham.
Merry Christmas.
Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Gillingham.
Chloe there really gets you in the festive mood, but unlike Santa, we have ran out of gifts tonight on Kent Tonight Live on KMTV. There'll be more news made just for you for Kent throughout the evening. Don't forget you can always keep up to date with the latest news across your county by logging on to kmtv.co.uk. You can keep us on your social timeline